Guys, if you're not a part of the Inner Circle Agile community, then I can tell you this for free. You are missing a lot, period. Yesterday, we had an amazing time. We spent about 5 hours digging deep into all things Scrum. There were lots of learning, lots of questions, lots of scenarios. Like people came up with live questions that were answered. Like it was just an amazing time. And I just want you guys to take a sneak peek, really. Just listen to this. I know we have a few people who just joined the call. Yeah, what's your question?
So my question is, in a situation where the team is, okay, let me just give you a scenario that happened to me personally at our retrospective yesterday. We find that the upper echelon does not really value agile. They think they are forward thinking or agile thinking, but they really are not. So much so that they have consistently they have access to developers, and so they pitch at them to do their work and stuff like that. So one of the conversations that was raised yesterday at my retrospective was, if we say we take all this time planning X, Y, Z, and we're never able to do the work that was apportioned to us during the sprint planning. Why are we doing agile? And I was a little taken aback because I didn't know how to respond to that. So in that type of situation, what would you suggest to be said or actual way to navigate? Thank you.
So if you're an aspiring Scrum Master or you're a new Scrum Master and you're looking for a community of like-minded individuals where you want to deepen your learning and understanding of all things Agile, I would like to introduce you to the Inner Circle Agile community created by me. We spend every day digging deep, answering questions. You have an opportunity to ask me any question. Your colleagues in the community will also respond to questions based on their own experience and based on things that they've observed. It's an amazing thing that you clearly do not want to miss. And of course, the coaching call is like the cherry on the cake. It's amazing. We get to meet, we get to spend quality time together. So I don't want you to miss on this opportunity. So if you're interested and you want to be a part of this exceptional community, then click the link in the description to learn how to get started today. Now, let's get into today's episode. So in today's episode, I actually want to address one of the questions that came up yesterday. We had lots of questions in our last coaching call, but there's one question that kind of caught my attention, and I felt that it will be beneficial to the larger community. So the question is, how do I know the various practices, the techniques, and the methods that can be employed with Scrum? Now, this was coming from one of the members who was interested in becoming a Scrum Master and said when he first got interested in becoming a Scrum Master, he was told that he needed to go read the Scrum Guide and take the exam to get certified and start looking for a job. And so he read the Scrum Guide. It was a 14-page document. And he was like, okay, this looks a bit straightforward. Scrum is simple to understand, but it's really difficult to master. So he was like, okay, I read it. It was simple. It looked straightforward. And then I was like, you know what? Before I take my exam, let me go online to kind of just research and see what's out there. And so he came across videos and I think a few podcasts. And it was like, okay, why are these people talking about something different? I didn't read about story estimation. I didn't read about, the random things that he came across online, and he knew that there was definitely a disconnect. And I guess that's how he came across me. And he was like, okay, I started watching your YouTube videos. I'm like, you talk about different things. I listen to your podcast. You talk about different things. I'm like, where is she getting these things from? They are not in the Scrum Guide. And so that was such a funny question that I felt that we would also have quite a number of people who are thinking this way, who are like, okay, so how am I supposed to increase my learning? How am I supposed to know that this practice exists, or this, or this framework, or, this process, or whatever the case might be, this method? And so today I'm going to show you how to kickstart your knowledge and expand your knowledge from the Scrum Guide, because I know that the Scrum Guide is always like the first thing many people go to. Although I'm pretty shocked that a few people are not even come across the Scrum Guide. I'm like, really? So what are you doing? Okay, so just for the benefit of those who, this is their first rodeo, they don't even have a clue, they haven't done anything. The first two materials or resources that you want to get familiar with will be the Agile Manifesto, which consists of the Agile values and the principles. And then you clearly want to get acquainted with the Scrum Guide. Because you are going to be a Scrum Master, you clearly need to be a master in Scrum and then expand your knowledge in other practices that are out there. Now, let's assume that you have read the Scrum Guide. I can tell for sure that you probably did not read it really well, or you just kind of read it and think you understand. But the Scrum Guide is much deeper than that. I would like to call it the Scrum Bible. You know, we had this discussion yesterday. It's so deeper than the way we just read it because there's a lot of interpretations that you can get. And I think that one thing I noticed is that for the new Scrum Masters, they casually read the Scrum Guide. So they overlook a lot of things that they need to pay attention to. So today I'm going to kind of tell you the things you need to pay attention to so that those things can help you expand your learning, and then you can know the other things that you need to start searching for. Okay, so today's episode is actually more like a workshop. So I am going to turn over to my screen so I can open up the Scrum Guide, and so that way I can pick up some things and then show you how you can then expand your learning going forward. All right, sounds like a plan? Okay, let's go for this. So I have a copy of the Scrum Guide here on my screen. And one thing I like you to pay attention to as you read is the Scrum definition. So the Scrum definition, Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems, right? That's how that's how the Scrum Guide defines Scrum. In a nutshell, Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where a product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. The Scrum team turns a selection of the work into an increment of value during a sprint. The Scrum team and its stakeholders inspect the result and adjust for the next sprint, and then you repeat the process. So this is in the Scrum Guide. For those of you who are wondering where I'm reading from, this is the Scrum Guide. It's scrumguides.org. And just right at the Scrum definition, you're going to see what I just read out to you. So it's 4 lines in a nutshell. Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment. So now for you who is new to Scrum, when you read that kind of statement, just don't read it passively, because it's telling you that as a Scrum Master, Scrum, that framework that you're using, requires you to create an environment for you to do this following things, where a product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. When you read this, it's probably going to make very little meaning to you. So you're going to probably take it, for what it is. But that's not what it is. The question you need to be asking is, how does a product owner order the work for a complex problem into a product backlog? I want you guys to study and not just read. When you are studying, you're going to be asking questions. You're going to be very inquisitive. And that's the best way for you to expand your knowledge of Scrum. Because when I look at that statement, I'm like, okay, Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where a product owner orders the work from a complex problem into a product backlog. It means that as a Scrum Master, I'm supposed to be doing something. How do I create an environment where a product owner knows how to order the work for a complex problem? That means clearly I need to write it down somewhere that I need to learn more about a product backlog. I need to learn more about how a product owner orders work. Now, let's just kind of play a quick one here. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to try to just put in that first word and see if there's anything that I can pick on. I told you guys, this is a workshop. Okay, so I'm going to type, how does a product owner order the work for a complex problem? So let me get my computer. How does a product owner order the work for a complex problem into a product backlog? So now a few things are out here. I see that, let's see. The product owner looks at the items that are small enough and puts them in order, mostly based on the business value score. So this is just a search result telling you one of the ways that a product owner could actually order the backlog. Now I see here, the product backlog is arranged according to the progress towards the implementation. These are features and executed tasks. A backlog is constructed so that the high priority item appears at the top of the list and the least important features are at the bottom. Now, this is just my first 2 seconds on Google, and I found 2 ways that a product owner could actually order the backlog. Now, as a new Scrum Master, this is how you expand your knowledge, because then you've read that first word. You need to kind of research to understand what you can grab from that word. And now, just on Google, there are quite a number of articles that have come up. Now, your job is for you to further your learning and go down that rabbit hole to kind of like see, okay, what is that? What is business value score? What does that even mean? What does it mean to, prioritize high priority items on the top? What does that mean? By the time you go through that journey, you would have learned how to help your product owner to order the backlog, because the Scrum Guide says that you are supposed to create that environment to be able to do so. That is how you expand your knowledge. Now, one thing, let's go back to the Scrum Guide. Now, one thing the Scrum says is this, and I think it's important for us to know this. So this is important. The Scrum framework is purposefully incomplete, only defining the paths required to implement Scrum theory. Scrum is built upon the collective intelligence of people using it. Rather than provide people with detailed instructions, the rules of Scrum guide their relationships and interactions. Various processes, techniques, and methods can be employed within the Scrum framework. Now, it's important for you guys to know that the Scrum Guide would never have everything you need to be successful as a Scrum Master. The Scrum Guide was designed that way on purpose because it needs to allow for you guys to figure out the context through which you're using it. And that's why the Scrum Guide states the Scrum is built upon the collective intelligence of the people using it, which means that with Scrum, you're going to get the paths that are required to implement the Scrum theory. However, the practices, the techniques, the methods, which basically mean how you are going to achieve that, will not necessarily be in the Scrum Guide. So it's left for you to go figure those things out. But this was the question that the member asked. How do I go figure those things out? And so today I'm showing you how to figure it out. So we read one of the things that a Scrum Master needs to be doing. And now I put that in Google to kind of give me an extended learning. That is how you guys need to be able to figure out your learning. And that's how you're going to come across the various practices, the various techniques, and the methods that we can employ within the Scrum framework. Now, when it comes to Scrum, Scrum says that everything you need to implement Scrum theory, which is transparency, inspection, and adaptation, I have made available for you. Now, how you're going to do those things will sometimes vary, and then you can use your own knowledge and that kind of stuff to go figure it out. So now we kind of figured out basically 2 ways that a product owner can order the backlog. Now, the second thing says that Scrum requires a Scrum Master to provide an environment where the Scrum team turns a selection of work into an increment of value during a sprint. The question you should be asking right here is, what does a selection of work mean? What does an increment of value mean? That would also take you towards another rabbit hole where you get to understand that, a selection of work is actually a sprint backlog. And I'm sure if you read the Scrum Guide in its entirety, you'll probably even discover that without even having to go source for other materials. And then increment of value, you would also understand what that means. You would learn what a sprint means. And then the question you should be asking is, how do I provide an environment where the Scrum team can turn a selection of work into an increment of value? Right? Basically, how can I help my Scrum team complete the work that they pull into the sprint, if you want to paraphrase what was said? So that way it expands you into a new type of learning, what you can go on Google and type, how can I help my team improve the rate at which they finish their work? Or how can I help my team improve their chances of completing their work? Different ways that you're going to type these things in will still give you similar results that will help you. Because just looking at that, when I look at that number, for example, I can start thinking of, okay, for me to be able to help my team increase their chances of completing their work, first of all, we need to understand the body of work. So that means we need to have a sprint goal. We need to have a focus that the team is get towards. Okay. We need to understand the capacity of the team. How many team members do I have? What is their capacity? Right? When you go down that rabbit hole, that is how you're going to find things like that. You're going to come across velocity. You'll come across capacity. You come across, sprint goal. You come across daily Scrum. All of those are practices that will help and improve the chances of your team completing their work and turning it into an increment. You're going to even come across definition of done and definition of ready. That is how you get exposed to those practices, those what's it called? Those techniques and those methods. So please read to understand. Just don't casually read. You're trying to get into an industry that is new for you, or you can't casually do things. Now, Scrum also says that Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where the Scrum team and the stakeholders inspect the results and adjust for the next sprint. You have to figure out, like, how can I do this? So basically, what I'm trying to tell you today is you need to start asking how, because in the how, you're going to discover a lot of things which will expand your learning, right? And you do this to every line that you come across. That's what it means to study. You do that to every line that you come across that seems vague or seems like there is more to it. Try to go down the rabbit hole where you spend more time researching what that means. And this will open you up to a world of practices, a world of techniques, and a world of methods that will definitely expand your knowledge. Also, Scrum spends quite a number of time talking about the Scrum Master and what the Scrum Master is accountable for, right? So let's just go through a few things. It says the Scrum Master serves the Scrum team in several ways, including coaching the team members in self-management and cross-functionality. Those are two key words there. Do you understand what it means to be cross-functional? Do you know what self-management means? Go down the rabbit hole to figure out what those means. How can I help my Scrum team to be self-managed and more cross-functional? You're going to find different things you can do. Those things are the techniques that we use in Agile. How can I help my Scrum team to focus and create high value increments that meets the definition of done? You should be asking how. How can I help my team to remove impediments? How can I ensure that the Scrum events take place, they are productive, and they are kept within the time box? When you put these words or these sentences in Google, you're going to learn facilitation skills just by looking up on how can I ensure my Scrum events take place and they're positive. You're going to improve your skill set, and it's going to make you a better person. So I want you guys to really focus on the how. When you're reading the guide, or even when you're reading any material at all, just don't read it at surface value. Try to figure out, what does the statement mean? What is it talking about? Try to ask a question and go to Google and type that in. That is really how you're going to expand yourself, because honestly, there is a lot out there for you to learn. And the more you are able to source for that information yourself, the better for you, because clearly no coach is going to have your time 24/7 to provide everything you need. So you are going to need to know how to source for this information yourself. And I am one person who likes to enable people to know how to dig deep and find for themselves. I do not like to, just give you those things every time, because sometimes after when I give it to you and you don't even know how to go source very further, then what happens afterwards, right? So even though obviously I'm going to give you things that will help you succeed, I also want to teach you how to go source for those information yourself so that you improve your chances of succeeding. Now, one thing I'm going to do just to kind of help you guys out is I am going to provide a document that's going to introduce you guys to various practices, various processes, various techniques, and various methods that you need to know about Agile. So if you're interested, click in the description below and I will tell you how to get this information. Thank you so much, as usual, for always spending time listening to my podcast, watching my video, and sending me messages. I'm always excited to read your comments. I'm always excited when I see those views go up. I'm always excited when I see many downloads on my podcast. So you guys, thank you so much. I love you guys as usual. I hope that today's video is super useful to you guys. Thank you so much for all that you do. And I'm just wishing you guys the best. It's the festive season. So you guys make sure you have fun, take the time to rest, and, just stay positive. I trust that for all of you who are in search of a Scrum Master job, you will get it. Just put in the work. Keep pushing, keep trying, and you will get it. And don't forget to reach out to me to let me know that you did get it. And honestly, if you want to improve your chances of, learning and getting your job much quicker, I honestly advise you to join the Inner Circle Agile community created by me. It is an amazing community, and I'm sure you are going to have a great time. All right, guys, I'll talk to you much later. Bye for now.